Hi everyone, this is Corey from the club. It's the last day of April, and first thing wanted to point out is that we are concluding the Employee Support Fund over the next few days, so we really appreciate all the support we've gotten on that and thank everyone for contributing, and it's going to really mean a lot to the employees to see that. So thank you for that. And the second thing that we've been working on the supporting the employees has been individual outreach. And so through a phone campaign to each of the employees, we've been able to identify specific things that they need. And so in the last few days, we've been able to deliver masks, some small supplies, some snacks. We made a couple of food deliveries. And we're going to continue to work on an individual basis with the employees to respond to specific needs that they have as best we can in a way that's sustainable for the club. So the end of April kind of concludes what I consider to be round one as far as us contending with COVID-19. And so now that we're going into May, we are kind of rolling out our set of initiatives for round two. And the first of which is the email that we sent out. We did announce that we're going to do a dues charge for the month of May. And so the way that we've structured that is that it'll be for 1/3 of the amount that you normally pay. So it's a fraction of the full dues amount. And similar to the employee holiday fund that we do in December, you do have the ability to opt out. So we want to recognize that some people are in financial constrained positions, and we want to keep the member community intact. And so what we think we've tried to do with this is strike a balance between supporting the club financially without causing reason for members to want to either hold or cancel their membership. So I think it's going to be a good way that we've structured it. We based that format on looking at what the other private clubs are doing. And so one thing that sometimes is hard to distinguish is because we're called the Los Angeles Athletic Club, a lot of people will see us as part of the health club industry, and we obviously have a focus on athletics and sports and physical fitness, but we are actually more in line with the club industry. And the private club industry includes country clubs, social clubs, university, yacht, all the different kind of historic style clubs. And within that world, there's a subset of those clubs that are like us, and those are the historic athletic clubs. And one way to get a good overview, we're going to post an article that's called The Original Seven. There are only 7 athletic clubs left that are pre-1900. So it's a very small group of amazing clubs throughout the country that we're part of. And so when we go through challenges like this, we look at what each of the other clubs is doing and how they're structuring their dues to be able to survive this. And so we've seen a lot of the clubs, they're charging anywhere from 1/3 to full dues. And I wasn't aware of any that are allowing an opt-out option. So I think we've put together a pretty conservative membership dues arrangement. And what that'll allow us to do as we enter what I consider round two is to really get this equation right and put in a lot of work into what the club looks like when this reopens. And it's a little early to talk about a reopening date, but there are things that are going to need to change to make that possible whenever it does occur. And so, you know, a lot of it's going to come down to social distancing, cleaning, flow throughout the club, and monitoring that, and then entrances and checkpoints. So, you know, we're basically going into a new game, and there's going to be a new set of rules. And, you know, on the positive side, I'm pretty optimistic about how well we can do at that. So talk about just today, I'm just going to talk about one aspect of that, and that's the idea of social distancing. And so, you know, part of our challenge during this period is that we have this massive square footage of clubhouse. We have 120,000 square feet. And so that overhead and that infrastructure cost is what differentiates us from the health club world, and that's why we get categorized as a private club. But when we get to the point of reopening, that massive square footage is going to be a huge advantage. You look at some of the spaces we have, and there's just nothing in downtown that can compete on the scale of some of these. And so I'm going to just walk around. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but these are going to be spaces that we're going to focus our efforts on, and probably will represent areas where we see the first member use. So the Centennial Ballroom on the 3rd floor, the basketball court on the 6th floor, the pool on the 6th floor, and then the rooftop. So let's kind of walk through those spaces, and I'll just talk a little bit about the things that we're seeing and the uniqueness of those parts of our club. Okay, so I'm up here on the 12th floor, and what I'm going to do is take you through the rooms I mentioned and do it in order of size. So if you want to try to guess which of these rooms is the largest, we're going to start with the smallest of the spaces, which is actually the rooftop. I was a little surprised about that, but I'm walking up the stairs to the roof, and we'll kind of take a peek at that space. Right, so we're on the rooftop of the athletic club, and this is the smallest of the spaces that I'm going to show you guys. This one thing to point out is this rooftop was renovated, pretty major project where we redid the entire substructure and surface of the roof. We installed a new perimeter fence. So you may have remembered the old chain link fence that we had. It's been replaced, and the surface now is clad with paver tiles. So we changed the surface over. If you've been a member for a long time, you may remember that originally we actually had paddle tennis courts up on the roof. So we had 3 paddle tennis courts, including the 3rd one on that side, that were surrounded by a chain link fence cage. And the problem we ran into is that the cage caused leaks. So we were never able to waterproof those courts, and we gradually had to remove those one by one. And we've added the strand lights for the overhead. We've done some artist in resident programs, and Lauren Halsey was the first, and she set up a studio in that space there. And a lot of the wedding ceremonies that we have at the club take place here, and you can see the skyline as the backdrop. Another kind of cool thing to point out is if you look over this side, you're looking down on the basketball court, and you can see the giant skylight structure there. So that court will be on our list of stops today. It represents a pretty large space. So the rooftop itself comes in at 130 feet wide and 32 feet in the other direction. So it's a 4,160 square foot space. So if we do anything with cocktails on the roof or set up private lounges, some kind of events where we need distancing, this will be a good space. Obviously it's open air and it's an amazing view at night. So this is the rooftop. Okay, so now we're on the third floor and we are entering the second larger space in the club. And this is the Centennial Ballroom. And you can see right now we're doing employee dining, but the picture in this poster is from 1912 when we originally opened. This was the a la carte dining room for the club. And so you'll notice the walls are clad with the original mahogany wood. The art collection has a pretty good presence in this room. We have 3 oil paintings on this side of the wall and 3 more on that side. Right now we've got some tables set up, and you could see right now for our employee dining, we have a very small team here. These are spaced out 12 feet, and you can see how much room a properly socially distanced restaurant is going to require. This room is 4,250 square feet, and if we keep a 12-foot separation like these tables are here, we may be in a good spot. I don't want to get into exactly what our distance metric is going to be at yet, but for this room it might be around 12 feet. The tables are plastic, which is easy to clean. Anything we do with members will be covered with linen and changed after each use. The chairs that we're using in here are also synthetic and can be easily cleaned. This room has 22-foot ceilings. So, you know, when you're talking about a room that's 4,250 square feet, you're talking about square footage that's larger than a lot of homes and larger than a lot of restaurants. It's got 2 entrances that are widely spaced out. And the big advantage that we have is it's attached by 2 more doors to a massive kitchen. So when they say that term, they don't build them like they used to. Man, the size of our kitchen compared to what would be built in a restaurant today is pretty amazing, which, you know, has always been nice, but when we reopen, it's going to be extremely important to have that. So this is the Centennial Ballroom, and this is number 2 on our list of largest spaces in the club. So I was a little surprised that this is a little bit larger than the rooftop. I thought the rooftop was larger, so we'll go on to our next spot. All right, now we're on the 6th floor, and we're about to enter our next largest room, which is actually a basketball court. And we've named it the John R. Wooden Award Basketball Court after the College Basketball Player of the Year award that we give out. And so from the rooftop, we were looking down on the skylight, which is a pretty amazing feature. And it was kind of surprising to think that the ballroom had the lowest ceilings at 22 feet of all the rooms we're going to be going into. So the skylight is pretty unique here. This floor space is 55 feet by 104 feet. So we're looking at a 5,720 square foot space. And the one thing that's really amazing about this for what we're about to deal with is that it actually has a door entrance that connects to the parking garage. So there's a chance that we'll be able to step off out of a car on the 6th floor and be able to enter this space with just a few feet of walking. And you can imagine how much separation we can have if we do a yoga class or any other type of group exercise class on this floor. So basketball court will be a primary place for fitness. And one thing to point out is when the club was founded in 1880, the sport of basketball hadn't even been invented yet. So it's kind of amazing to see. In 1912, this was considered more of a gymnasium than a basketball court. So we transitioned over to basketball probably, 75 years ago or something like that. So this is the John R. Wooden-Ward basketball court. All right, so here we are, the largest space in the club, and we are at the Plunge. This is the name we've given the pool that we built in 1912, and this is one of the early pools built above ground. It was the first pool built above ground west of the Mississippi, and it was built that way per the request of Henry Huntington, who didn't want to have the pool in the basement where the ceilings were low and the environment was stuffy. So it was built up here on the 5th floor. You can see the 7th Street buildings looking down out of these windows. And the big feature of this pool is all the natural light that's directly overhead, which was done by the creation of that skylight. So pretty amazing feature. That chandelier is actually a near exact replica of the original chandelier that was put up in 1912. We were able to take dimensions and work with a lighting artist to recreate that. And we can change the light bulbs by lowering that into the pool and having our engineers work out of a little boat, I guess, which is always fun to watch. We've done synchronized swimming exhibitions in the pool, which have been kind of a cool event. We obviously have swimming as one of the most prominent sports that we offer. So one of the most popular activities in the club. And this space really, not only is it the biggest, which it actually clocks in at 8,525 square feet. It runs the entire length of the building on our widest dimension. And then, of course, the recent renovation restores the original sort of cafe-style food service that we did when we opened in 1912 poolside, so that you can grab a coffee and sit down and enjoy some food and beverage next to a pretty amazing space. So swimming will probably land on one of our earlier activities that we opened. I don't want to exactly determine the order of all that stuff now, but just looking at the massive size of the space, the proximity to the door on the 6th floor, we could basically enter and exit people into this space without going through the lobby and through the stairwells. So this floor also has a swimmer's shower that is attached here. So if we need to have a shower that's not located on the 5th floor, there's one here, and there's also a changing room attached to it. So this is the Plunge. All right, so as I said, the club is sort of entering round 2, and just took you guys on a tour of our largest spaces within the club. These are spaces that we think represent possible areas of first use when we reopen, and they also represent spaces of such size that it's hard to find spaces this large in the entire city, and especially in downtown. So we think we're fortunate to be able to capitalize on that, and we look forward to providing updates as we go through the entire thought process of retuning the facility and readjusting to this sort of new set of rules and this new game of operating during COVID-19. So we'll continue to work on the projects we've been working on. We'll try to keep posting stuff to social media, promoting Zoom meetups and interviews on Instagram Live. We'll keep posting stuff to our YouTube channel, so keep watching us there. I'll continue to give you guys updates on our employee team. So we've moved through stages with them, and we're happy to distribute the employee support fund as one of the next projects and continue to work with them on a case-by-case basis. So thank you guys for your support, and we look forward to having you guys back in this amazing facility.